Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharon Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode. To celebrate Season 3 of She Leads Biotech, we wanted to bring you something a little different. So instead of one guest, we bring you 4. Today's episode is more than just a panel discussion. It's 4 brilliant women from one company with a window into what equity can look like in the workplace when it's not just a checkbox, but a core value embedded into the company's DNA. A company where women don't just have a seat at the table. They're shaping the conversation, driving innovation, and building each other up along the way. So join me in welcoming the Arborenas of Arbor Biotechnologies, Pam Stetkovich, Chi Young Chung, Kathy Simmons, and Hope Foudalakis. Ladies of Arbor, good morning.
Good morning, Sharon. Morning.
How is everybody?
Doing good.
Doing well. Excellent. I know that we're not going to all try and speak at once here, so we'll figure out how we can follow the process through. But I did want to say thank you very, very much for joining me for episode 1 of our 3rd season of She Leads Biotech. So I'm really excited that we're getting to speak to a whole group of ladies as we go. Really, what I want to talk about today is your life at Arbor Biotechnologies and what you do there. But let's start off with a little bit of an introduction. Tell me a little bit about your backgrounds and what brought you into this world. Did it pick you? Did you pick it? How did it go? Pam, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Thank you for having us, Sharon. We're delighted to be here. I think what brought me to Arbor Biotechnologies, I've been there almost 4 years as COO, and what brought me there was gene editing is an incredibly exciting scientific space to be in, and it was actually using a long career in drug development and trying to prove or to demonstrate that a new novel modality of CRISPR gene editing could be useful to patients and really meet the unmet need in these devastating diseases. So really excited about the science, the people, the technology, and the ability to help patients.
And Hope, what's your background?
As Pam said, thank you for hosting us today, Sharon. I'm really excited to be here. So I'm probably the newest member in Arbor. I've been here for about 8 months, and it was really, I came to Arbor after taking about a year gap, kind of chose to take some time off after having, I think it was probably the 4th layoff in my career, which, I keep saying our industry is not for the faint of heart, but I decided to do something different about it. And when the opportunity presented itself to join Arbor, I was very excited because this is a fairly new role for myself. But as Pam mentioned, being in the genome editing space was something very new to me, given my previous background. And I was really excited not only for the role, but for the science really that we do at Arbor. So that was really a major reason and contributor of joining Arbor.
Great. And what was your background? What was your background before you joined Arbor?
So I've been right now in Arbor, I'm the director of CMC operations. And prior to that, I was a scientist in my early days. I've been in the industry for about 25 plus years. And I have my master's in organic chemistry. But over the years, I've had the opportunity really to transition into different areas. I was a lab bench chemist for about half of my career. And unfortunately, that company, I was there for about 10 years, shut down. And as upsetting as that was, Sharon, at the time, in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that happened to my career because it gave me the opportunity to organically step into a completely new role, such as API chemical development, clinical supply chain, ancillaries, and now in Arbor CMC operations. I was really very grateful for those new opportunities, meaning to be able to pivot in my career because I realized early on in my scientific role that I liked doing chemistry, but I didn't love it. And that was really a defining role for me and kind of to think and take a step back and say, what else can I do while staying in the industry?
And it's great that you find, it's a great story for people, particularly in this climate at
Yeah,
the moment. Then when something awful happens, like layoffs
absolutely.
and things, that, it's not the end of the world.
It is not. It is
It's
not.
there's something out there. Yep. And it's just, keep the faith, hang on in there, and that you'll find that you'll be in a happier place as well. So that's really, really a really great message
100%.
to get out to people. Kathy,
Yep.
what's your story?
So, I'm a scientist at heart. I started in the lab. I was always drawn to science and trying to understand what underlies disease and how to solve for it. So, I started in the lab doing my master's in microbiology and my PhD in cancer research. When I was in the lab, I wanted to work more with people. And I also saw my PI who had worked his entire life, his entire career on one pathway, one tiny little pathway. And only just recently, within the past 5, 6 years, has that research panned out to an actual therapeutic being available for patients. And so I wanted to be closer to the patients, basically. So I then did a stint at business school, which gave me broader exposure to the opportunities within industry outside of the bench and research. And then I transitioned through consulting into industry, really working across medical affairs, clinical development, and commercial. And so now at Arbor, I came in about 2 years ago, and I was drawn to it because during my master's was when they were originally identifying the CRISPR enzymes in microorganisms. And so being able to come full circle and see that technology applied into patients was really exciting for me. And at Arbor, I'm now the program lead as well as the head of new product planning, our early commercial planning for our programs.
Excellent. Yeah, and you definitely need almost the patience of a saint to be a scientist to see something through to the end, don't you? I've spoken to so many people that have come away from the bench, and basically it was like I just couldn't. It was just I want to make a difference now. I don't, full kudos to those people we need those people who are just gonna, oh nope, that failed. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. But I'm kind of with you. I'd be a bit more, okay, come on. What can I do that's going to speed this up? So I totally get that. Gee, last but by no means least, what's your story?
Yeah, so I say my story begins with my family. I grew up, born and grew up in Korea, and in Asia, it's very common to live with three generations,
Yeah.
sometimes four. Both my paternal grandparents had real neurological disease, and they really suffered for a long period of time, and they had huge impact in their life and the family's life. And watching that growing up really made me energized and curious about brain. I wanted to do something about this devastating brain disorders. And this is how I got into College of Pharmacy back in Korea. And there I wanted to get into drug discovery. And so putting those two together, I studied neuroscience. I came to US then to do my PhD, and I did my postdoc. At the Whitehead Institute, we did some really interesting research using yeast. And that when we realized this billion-year-old organism can give huge insight on neurological disorder, as complicated as it is. We really harnessed that yeast genetic to come up with a small molecule that could really be helpful for neurodegenerative diseases. I decided to take a leap of faith and decided to join so-called the dark side. And it turned out that the dark side is not that dark.
Not that dark. There you go.
And so I was, this as a scientific co-founder, I was able to join the company at a leadership level, and really did what we promised to do, where we retrieved a target and a compound from yeast, and all the way to be tested in a human patient. And after that, the molecule was acquired by big pharma, and here am I. I decided to join Arbor. I am right now there as a vice president and heading central nervous system therapy development.
Fabulous.
What really motivates me there is that this formidable challenge of developing gene editing medicine for the CNS space. This has never been done before, but that challenge really motivates me. And if we can do this, it's it will open a floodgate of therapies for a disease that cannot be treated by current modality.
So you've almost been right from the beginning with yeast and taking that to genomics and moving through, and you followed that path. And now at Arbor, you're having that opportunity to kind of really take that that area into something real in a neurological way. Excellent. Sure, we'll cover more of it as we go through the episode, because I can't see that we're not going to really dig into the weeds of that as we go through. From my perspective, I think one thing that attracted me to Arbor as a company in terms of the podcast was I was looking for companies that had strong women involvement, not necessarily all at the C-suite, but what ran through was a collective of women that were more than just like fluff. Does that make sense? But the women were there, the role that they played, I could see just through the website and what was coming out was how involved that is. And that kind of runs right through the DNA of Arbor, isn't it? The women's involvement. I know there is you collectively, I'm going to say this wrong, I know, the Arborenas. And Kathy, you're going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it's actually it's called the Arborenas. Arbor. Or we collectively refer to ourselves as Arborinos. And so to play on that, when we founded the ERG for women, we decided to name it the Arborenas as a little play on our identity.
Okay. So what is the ERG? Talk to me about what that is, how it started and what it's all about.
Yeah, so the ERG really is an ERG for women. It's a resource group that focuses on development, mentorship, and overcoming biases. My passion for being a co-lead and helping start the ERG was really through my experience in industry and even prior to industry and academia, being a woman and the challenges that I had to overcome in my career. One of the things, as you mentioned, and I know Pam can speak to it more, is really how well represented women are at Arbor. And that's what drew me to Arbor and one of the things that drew me to come to Arbor. But in my experience, that is not always the case. Women are often the one or one of two in a room full of men. And finding your voice and being able to speak and contribute to the conversation is something that I had challenges with as an early stage professional, and it's something that the women's group that I participated in my last company really helped me learn and overcome. I got sponsorship and mentorship through that group that helped me grow and develop in my own career. And so I wanted to bring that back to Arbor and pay it forward, if you will, to the younger generation of scientists and early stage career professionals at Arbor.
Excellent. And what sort of numbers of you are there? How is it made up within the group? Pam, can you share that with me?
Yeah, sure. I think this is something that I'm particularly proud about at Arbor is the amount of not only the number of women, but the sheer force of the women in the organization and the impact we make across multiple line functions. So we're almost 100 people at Arbor right now, and we are made up of 57% women at Arbor. But maybe even more importantly, if we look at the director or above level, we have 27 employees that are in that category, and 59% of them are women. And I think this is I think it's really important because I think we're realizing more and more that science is a team sport. It takes thoughts from different disciplines and different experiences to contribute to really difficult problems. And I think women are particularly well adapted at working together and sharing thoughts and ideas in a way that's not that's very results in good problem solving. And so I really feel like this has made a difference at Arbor. And I like that. You can go around and feel the vibe. And I really do think that we're making an impact and being respected in the organization.
Okay. And Chi, I believe that you're one of the mentors in the mentoring program. Is that right? What can you tell me about that?
So this is called buddy mentoring. And buddy is a very important word here. It's not just one-sided mentoring. That's why this is very unique. I joined the second round of buddy mentoring, and I learned that it's actually co-mentoring of the two people, that it's a two-way mentoring. So I was paired with a research associate at Arbor. And clearly, there's a long years of gap, difference in experience. But I was interested in how the young generation sees the problems and the interest at biotech as well, and so that I could be a receptive, understanding leaders for those young generation and their needs. So she was so insightful in her own way to be able to give me that mentoring points, and I was also able to help her in some of the soft skills she wanted to learn about. So she was interested about stakeholder management, to get what she wanted to through all the different stakeholders. So based on my experience in managing stakeholder, I was able to give her some mentoring. So, and that's why it's called body mentoring. And it's a good realization that you can always learn from people, right? Whether you have long years of experience or not, and there's always point that you can
Never stop learning.
Yeah, that's right.
Never stop being curious and never stop learning. I think that's the important thing. Cool. And Hope, you as the newest member of the Arbor team, have you availed yourself of the mentor program yet? Or what's your experience as being part of the group?
Yeah. Not officially, but I think mentoring can happen in many ways. And I love it actually when it happens organically. To give you, as I mentioned, I've been a few months, 7 or 8 months in Arbor, but a few months ago we had a team building event within Pam's organization. We went for a bowling activity, and I was even more new back then in getting to know people. And I was paired up with somebody. She happens to be a junior kind of scientist in our group, and I got to know her a little bit. We got to talking. Her bowling skill is far better than mine, so I was happy to be paired up with somebody, a lot more, skilled in that area. But having that kind of organic conversation and getting to know somebody as a human, she approached me about a month or so ago and said, "Hey, can I pick your brain on something? I'm looking to transition maybe into a different area in our career." So I said, "Absolutely, let's go grab a sandwich," right? So we had about an hour discussion, and I felt the best way, because this is what's worked for me, for my mentors, is to hear about their experiences, especially being women, right? And how do they fare in their careers, and what motivated them to seek out change. So I just really, what I gave her was just to have an honest conversation of, this is what I've been through, and this is what has worked for me, this is what I've enjoyed. And we were actually in a meeting the other day, and she points out, she's like, "Hope, thank you for the discussion. It prompted me, it kind of invigorated me to take another course in this area." So I loved it. I wasn't thinking that I was doing really mentoring or inspiring over a sandwich. It was just sharing my story and experiences with her. So it's amazing because I know the impact that it's had on me from my mentors over the years.
Yeah.
And the advice that I give to people is, if you don't have to seek out a mentor within your department. Go outside. If you see somebody in the company that inspires you, don't be afraid to approach them and say, "Hey, can I just have, a chat with you?" It doesn't have to be, it's great, I think, that companies have a formal program, because it kind of motivates people to do that and inspires them. But it doesn't have to be that formal either. You can just have, a lunch or a coffee with somebody and kind of pick their brain on it.
You all get to line up outside the chief executive officer's door and say, "Hey, can we just have 10 minutes to talk about how I could have your job one day," or something?
So,
You'd be open to that.
yeah, yeah. And actually, it's great because I've had our CMO the other day say, "Hey, Hope, can I grab some lunch with you and kind of pick your brain on how you're doing?" And that was amazing. You don't have to, again, make it formal. I actually prefer the informal part of it and say, "How's your day going?" or how's it been here for you? So,
Yeah. And just having that open door policy kind of thing.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Perfect.
100%.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's such words will come to me, but it's so enlightening for me to talk to women at a company where they're all at the same company and the experience all the way through, no matter what their level is always so positive. Obviously, that's not always the case out in the field. I just want to pivot a little bit and ask each of you, what's been your experience in the life sciences sector as a woman, something within your career, how you felt about it and how you handled it, good, bad, or indifferent. Hope, do you want to kick that off?
Absolutely. And so some of the challenges that I found from early on is really to constantly have to prove yourself as a female in this industry and promote yourself in ways that men typically do not. But really, before I get into that, I'm going to echo what Kathy said earlier about representation of women in the life sciences, right? And for women leaders specifically, I think that it's definitely improved over the years, but I think we still have ways to go. And I'll be honest, I'll use this example. It became really apparent to me very early, even before my career started. I mentioned that I was a graduate student at a local university, part of the chemistry department. And as a graduate student, you pretty much live there. Long hours, weekends are not an exception. The building that we were in had multiple floors, and it became very obvious to me very quickly on, that the women's bathrooms were in every other floor, and the men's bathroom was in each floor. So when I noticed that, I asked one of the administrators of what that is, and they told me that this building was still in its original structure from the phase where not a lot of female scientists back then. Fast forward, now we're in this building, late 90s or early 2000s, and our chemistry department was made up about half of them were female, graduate students, and the university really had done nothing to fix that. So it was really kind of mind-boggling to me that, in the early 2000s were not obvious of things like that. But I have to say I was happy, once I transitioned to the industry to see more representation of female scientists and leaders in general. I'll use Arbor actually as an example. And the CMC department that I'm in. In my past experience, I've seen it be more dominantly populated by men. And looking at the demographics, some of them that Pam I spoke to earlier, but specifically within CMC, I think we're about 40% females, which is, great representation to have. And of course, that spills also into the C-suite and in general in the leadership roles. So it's really, refreshing to see that things, have changed. But we have, still some work to do, I would say, yes.
Still some way to go.
Yeah.
Pam, you've probably experienced this more than anyone of us here. What's been your experience of the challenges faced by women leaders in the space?
Yeah. Kind of follow up with what Hope was saying. I think when I did my PhD, I went to Johns Hopkins, and we were rolled into medical school, first year of training for medical students. And that was the first year that there were more females in medical school. And so that was in the mid-90s. Thinking about that, that's 30 years ago, where we tipped the balance, where women were highly educated in the life sciences. And that hasn't really translated throughout, right? Or you would think, and there's lots of reasons why women don't keep taking more advanced roles, and that may due to, family obligations or other things. And I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of unconscious bias, and I don't think people intentionally pick men or women for particular roles, but I think everybody comes in with a perception into their job. And I think this is the beauty of actually having more women at all levels, but especially director and above, and hopefully in the C-suite, that make a big difference for women and allow their voices to be heard and kind of accept different forms of leadership, that not everybody has to kind of fit the traditional alpha male leadership, but more more about teams, more about collaboration, more about helping others succeed. And I think what I've seen over my career in general is that I think highly capable women sell themselves short a lot, where mediocre capable men sell themselves a lot. So maybe we can come to a balance where we help each other and support each other. And if there's, I think this is like a culture that If a woman has a good point to say, that other women can also help reinforce that that person had a good point or a good idea or a good solution. And I think we have to build up the culture that it's okay to support each other.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because even as a recruiter, I know over the years I've watched fellow recruiters and, they're interviewing for a role. And when they're interviewing the man for the role, it's the guy go, oh, it's on my resume. I did this. I was amazing. I did fantastic stuff. And the answer is brilliant. That's really good. Okay. And then a woman will be interviewed and she says, well, I did X, Y, and Z. Well, can you delve more into that? Can you talk more about that? And it's like, prove it. Let me catch you out because maybe I don't think you really can do it. But obviously that is not your experiences within Arbor, which is so. Another question that I wanted to investigate was finding an authentic leadership voice as a woman. And this kind of leads on from, we don't want to be men. I don't want to be a man, and I'm pretty sure that none of you want to be men. But it's sometimes, and I know back in the 80s, when as women we all had to put the big shoulder pads on and pantsuits and almost become much more masculine to be taken half seriously, which isn't authentic. So how do women find that authentic voice in leadership? Chi, can you talk to that?
Yeah, I don't know I have a full answer to this, and I actually would love an open discussion on all the participants, including you, Sharon, also. I'll just start with some of my experience and how I thought about this problem. So again, when I started, there's no such thing as a leadership training in academia. So it was a real learning curve for me. And also, as a woman with an Asian background, with English as a second language issues, all of this really presented a formidable challenge for me to be an effective leader. And I'll be in the meeting room, and I have another co-founder who's a male counterpart, and people will look at him, but not me. And because I was quiet, I was very soft in the corner, so that's why I can see that they will be surprised if I reach out for a shake hands, and they wouldn't expect me to do such a thing, right? And I felt like I was ignored sometimes. As time went, I realized I have to be more assertive. My voice has to be loud, not soft, to be able to catch their attention, to be able to notice. So I start picking up these mannerism of men in a way that's the only thing I knew. I didn't know how else to be able to catch their attention. One time, my my manager at the time in this company told me we were discussing promotion, and I wasn't happy with the promotion result. And I was talking to him about this issue, and he was saying, I didn't know that you were ambitious. This comment was very shocking to me. Somehow gave this male manager of mine had that impression, but that women somehow can have no motivation to be ambitious or successful. So
Yeah.
that really made me think how woman is viewed also. So I want to open this discussion to all the panelists and what their struggle in finding that authentic voice, right? You have to be happy in your skin to be able to take that, carry yourself.
Absolutely. Kathy, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, she opened it up and made me actually think of an example that I'd like to share before.
From then, like, as she was speaking, I was like, well, this will be another episode entirely, but let's keep going.
So early on in my career, I was organizing a leadership team offsite as a consultant, and I was running the offsite. I was working with two men, and so it was three of us that were organizing it. It was myself and two men. And when one of the leadership team members arrived, he handed me his keys, and then he went to talk to my male colleagues and walk into the room as though I was supposed to valet his
You're the valet.
I didn't know what to do. It was this expensive car. He left it running. Everybody else walked away. So I did. I went and I parked the car because I didn't want the car to get stolen. But at the same time, it put me immediately in a subservient position for the rest of the offsite. One of my first opportunities, joining leadership teams and participating in meetings with leaders, often being one of very few women in the room, I would sit quietly and not contribute. And one of my women mentors, after observing me for a couple weeks on this leadership team, she pulled me aside and she said, you're in your role for a reason. You're in the room for a reason. And your voice is just as valuable as everyone else's. And so you can't sit in silence. You need to find it. You need to bring it forward. And it's scary, but that's your job, right? That's why you're here. And people believe in you, and that's why you're here. And just I don't know, as simple as it was, just hearing there's a reason you're in the room made me feel more confident to be able to start talking. And it's something I've carried with me and I continue to remind myself of when I get in the headspace of being nervous or not feeling confident enough. You're in the room for a reason and you're bringing a different perspective. So I think that's been helpful. But then the second layer of it, which I think is true to what she was saying, is how you show up and the tone and the style and how you come across. I think the confidence piece is a big hindrance that a lot of people face. And so that's kind of been my go-to for getting past that hurdle.
Yeah. And having that, sometimes it is just that affirmation that you've earned your right to be there. And it's then your responsibility to own it and be part of the process, irrespective of what might be said or whatever as the case comes. But just having that validation that come on, you earned it, speak up. So very worthwhile. Pam, you want to share one of your stories with us?
I got a lot of great opportunities. But if I look back and reflect on the opportunities I had, there were two things that happened. So a lot of times there were changes going on and new opportunities opened up, and I was willing to take that chance. But the second one was that people recommended me for a job because they liked working with me. And so I think as women, we tend to suppress or we feel bad about networking or kind of like it's a waste of time to have lunch with people or because you're busy, and we sell ourselves a story that that's not valued and it's all about contributions and impact. And so I think we have to step back and say, really, where did you get opportunities? I just think we've kind of sold ourselves that we fit into this box as women and women scientists, that it's about the pedigree or the training and things like that. And it's not about how we work well with others. And that's what people really want at the end of the day. And so I think early on, one of my great bosses at Novartis said to me, I have 8 people that report to me, and 6 of them are men, and they tell me every day what they do and what they want. I have 2 women that report to me, and you two are incredibly great scientists and make a huge impact. I have no idea what you want. To Chi's point, I don't know if you don't want to travel to Switzerland because you have family obligations. I don't know if you want a promotion or you want to kind of stay and roll and learn more. And he's like, tell me what you want. And it's not a bad thing to have aspirations or ambition. It's a good thing. And so it was kind of this mindset about, hey, I matter and it's okay to have an ambition.
Yeah, and I think that is, in any industry, in any sector, is certainly one of the areas. And I know, many men that I've spoken to who've said, we want to promote somebody or we want to see somebody move forward, but we don't know that that's what they want because they don't tell us that. Hope, do you have a story to tell on this?
I have a few, and she opened up kind of Pandora's box, I think, with male mannerism. But I'll stick to one that comes to mind really because this personal experience really was a major contributor to the first time I chose to leave a company, by my choice. And at the time at this company, my role was to be a business relationship owner for one of our external partners, a vendor. That would depended a lot really for our day-to-day activities. So I had worked with this company's PM for about 5 years. And I really had built a great relationship with him, and we collaborated really well together. And I generally put a lot of emphasis on that in building relationships with external partners specifically, and that's something I take very seriously. So at the time, I also had a new manager who happened to be the head of our department, and his approach working with external partners was really not the same as mine. He had more aggressive, I would say, tactics and spoke loud. And so there was one pivotal moment that during our weekly call with this PM, my manager was also in the room, and I found myself starting to exhibit those mannerisms that he had. And because I felt a certain way, pressure to deliver. And I noticed it in this particular meeting of how I spoke to my PM. And that was really a turning point for me because it eventually, made me decide that that wasn't the place that I wanted to be. It really, I felt that I was being inauthentic to my core values, and I noticed my behavior change, and I was not happy with that. So in hindsight, it was really a great learning lesson for me that you don't have to compromise your moral compass, and change who you are for validation or to gain somebody's approval.
Yeah, and I think that's that's the key part of the conversation for all of it, isn't it? It's remaining authentic. What is your true authentic self? I've always tried very hard to be authentic, and people will either love me or hate me. There's never an in between. There's never a Sharon Cox. She's all right. It's one or the other. So I learned a long, long time ago to live with that. And I think as women, as long as we know we're staying authentic to ourselves, then that is that's good enough, I think. And I would like to also point out that there are lots and lots of men managers and leaders and everything out there that really are championing for women. So, those women out there listening to this, if you want something, go ask for it, because what's the worst that can happen? Someone says no. But it's really your responsibility. If you don't get it, it's because you haven't asked for it, as it is. So our final part of what we've got some time left now, just to ask each of you, what would your advice be to women coming in, a woman aspiring to be a leader in the life sciences space? What would your advice to them be? Pam?
Yeah, it's very thematic from what we've talked about today. I think you have to figure out within yourself, whatever that is, self-talk tools, whatever you can use to relay the self-confidence, because nobody wants to have a boss that's not confident. They don't want to have a teammate that's not confident, right? Or feels capable. Everybody wants to have that as part of a relationship with someone. So do what you can to feel confident in your role, and you don't have to know 90% of the subject matter to feel confident. You have to think broadly, get resources if you don't know the answer, and really take that and be able to influence others. You don't have to also win every war, win every battle. What you have to do is keep the big points and what keeps you authentic and what things you can't give on. But you don't need to win everything out there in order to be seen as a leader.
Excellent piece of advice. Gee, what's yours?
Yeah, I really agree with Pam there. The confidence piece is really important. In the beginning, I wasn't sure if I'll be able to add anything to the table. But after years being working with industry, with male colleague, I really do believe that women's voice matters. And that really gave me confidence. And having a woman mentor who really look out for you and can give you advice early on, and that network Pam mentioned really was helpful to me. I would advise everybody, especially young generation, really sort out for a mentor who you can really develop and grow.
And that networking doesn't have to be an afternoon at a golf club or in a pub drinking pints. It's just that real connection, isn't it? I think that was a great thing of COVID's, where it allowed women who may have had responsibilities that can't go to a networking event or spend an afternoon at a golf club or whatever, but could, through platforms like Zoom or like this, connect with women and just share stories and come away with something. And I do think it's a really worthwhile situation for women just to come together and just have a chat on that. Kathy, what can you add as some advice?
Yeah. So, we talked about raising your hand and Sharon, I think you brought up the point that, you really should raise your hand and take advantage and share kind of what you want out of your career. But in addition, I think, a lot of people start in their career thinking that it has to be a straight line from A to B. There's many different paths to get there, and they might not always be the obvious ones. And I think a lot of my growth has come out of opportunities that have presented themselves that I wasn't necessarily looking for, where I've gained the most growth and where people have suggested I would be good at something. And at first, you might look at it and be, oh, what do those have been the opportunities where I've grown the most and really appreciated. Um, that I've absolutely loved. So I think, take the opportunities as they come and don't feel as though it needs to be all charted out in advance.
Definitely don't say no to anything. Just keep an open mind. Perfect. And Hope, what advice would you give to somebody?
I would say Pam touched upon this a little bit, and I think the best advice that I can give, which I started incorporating myself in the later part of my career, is to not be afraid. Don't be shy of going after positions that you don't take all the boxes. And I've been an example, I've seen it on my own. And I'll use actually Arbor as an example where I'm pretty sure I wasn't taking all the boxes, but I was very, fortunate to have great male bosses. And sometimes they see something else in you, and you have to have that confidence too that you can get the job done. But it takes a great manager to see that value in you, to bring you in a position where you don't tick all the boxes. So I think has served me well, is to have that confidence over the years to be able to say, I'm going to go for it, and it might be a bit of a steep learning curve. If you're willing though to put in the time to learn new things, I think it's absolutely achievable to do that.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've covered an awful lot today. I want to thank you so much for being part of the podcast today. I'm just so inspired. I can't tell you how few companies that actually have that air about them that I've witnessed from talking to you four ladies today. Arbor is obviously a very, very special place to be and to have your career. So I wish you all continued success in anything that you do. And it's been a pleasure meeting you. Have a fantastic weekend. And I hope to have connections with you again in the future in some shape or form.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Shai. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye now.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.